कि अगर रामायण और महाभारत हमारे इतने नजदीक है समय के हिसाब से, तो पाठ्य पुस्तक का अंश क्यों नहीं है?
आपने जो शोध किया है या फिर जो आपका विषय है, उसे और कैसे बेहतर तरीके से बता सकता है, समझा सकता है?
ये सभ्यता के लेंस से इतिहास को देखना कितना आवश्यक है।
तो क्या आप कल्कि का अवतार नहीं मानते हैं कि कल्कि का अवतार होगा?
एविडेंस क्या है कि राम आज से महज 4000 वर्ष पहले थे हमारे बीच। तो विष्णु के केस में तो चलिए हम मान लेते हैं कि उन्होंने मानव अवतार लिया, इसलिए आपने कह दिया कि ठीक है वो मानव ही थे, असाधारण मानव थे, मान लिया। आप शिव को कैसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगे? आप दुर्गा को कैसे एक्सप्लेन?
तो ऑक्सफोर्ड की जो ग्रामर की बुक है, वो गधे को भी समझा सकती है और वो पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट डॉक्टरेट को भी समझा सकती है।
मान लीजिए हम गुप्त काल के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, मौर्य काल के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, तो उनके प्रासाद कहां पर थे, उनका यहां तक कि बाथरूम कहां पर था। अगर आप हड़प्पा मोहनजोदारो की बात करें तो बाथरूम की भी बात की गई है।
नमस्कार, मैं हूं कुमार श्रीकांत और आपका स्वागत है स्वधर्म में। स्वधर्म में हम अलग अलग मुद्दों पर बात करते हैं और हिंदू हितों को लेकर, सनातन हितों को लेकर और शाश्वत धर्म की परिभाषा जो आप जानते हैं उसे और गूढ़ और बेहतर बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं। आज इस प्रोग्राम में हम बात करेंगे रामायण के समय को लेकर। जी हाँ, रामायण का वास्तविक समय क्या है, हम उसे किस तरीके से देखते हैं और आम लोगों में रामायण के समय काल को लेकर क्या कुछ भ्रांतियां हैं। कहा जा रहा है कि कलयुग को तकरीबन 5000 वर्ष हो चुके हैं और सतयुग, त्रेता, द्वापर, उसके बाद कलयुग, और अगर पंचांग को देखा जाए तो 5000 वर्ष पहले द्वापर होगा और तकरीबन उसमें भी कुछ कालखंड का समय का कुछ एक तरीके से कहा जाए कि उतना क्लियर नहीं है, और उससे भी पहले त्रेता होगा। तो रामायण का समय क्या है, इसको लेकर भ्रांतियां क्या हैं, इसको लेकर मान्यताएं क्या हैं और किस तरीके से गणना होनी चाहिए रामायण को लेकर, और कालखंड क्या है और इसे मानना क्या ज्योतिष के हिसाब से या फिर इसको कैसे मानते हैं, ये बहुत अबूझ और रहस्यमय पहेली है जिसे सुलझाने की, जिसको समझने की कोशिश करेंगे। मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं सुजीत दासगुप्ता, जो स्वधर्म मीडिया के फाउंडर हैं, सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट हैं, अलग अलग मुद्दों पर एक बेबाक और बेहतरीन राय रखते हैं। और आज मैं और सुजीत जी मिलकर एक तरीके से सवाल पूछेंगे। ये कोई इंटरव्यू नहीं है, ये बातचीत का एक सिलसिला है, बातचीत का एक दौर है, जिसमें हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं जिजित जी, जिजित एन रवि जी, जिन्होंने रामायण की वास्तविक गणना की है। इन्होंने ये बताया कि रामायण की कालखंड क्या था, कैसे रामायण को माना जाए और कैसे देखा जाए। मैं ओवर टू यू सुजीत जी कर रहा हूं, लेकिन मैं अपना एक सवाल पहले ही पूछ लेता हूं। जैसे मैंने आरंभ में कहा जिजित जी कि 5000 साल कलयुग को हो गए और कहा जा रहा है कि 5000 साल पहले द्वापर था और द्वापर से कुछ समय पहले ही त्रेता होगा। तो हम उस कालखंड को माने जो पंचांग कहता है, ऋषिकेश पंचांग हो या फिर अगर देखा जाए बनारस का ज्योतिष परिषद, आप इसे किस तरीके से देखते हैं?
So before you answer that, Jijith ji, let me introduce the concept to the English knowing viewer as well. So it has been about 10 years that there is a resurgence in Hindu civilization, in Hindu people in this country and abroad. There is an increased interest in knowing about our past, our civilization, our culture, where it comes from, all of which had got diminished due to the leftist education system that we have grown up on. A lot of things from our history are not put in our textbooks of history in school or in the university papers. Now, among the group of very prominent scholars and intellectuals who have emerged on the scene is Jijith Nadumuri Ravi, who is with us today. After having written 4 books, only 2 of which, very strangely, appears on Google search. One is the reverse of Rgveda, and the other is Geography of Ramayana. Jijith, after you told me that you actually have written 4 instead of 2 books, and I searched again and I couldn't find the other 2 books' names, strangely. But anyway, we will come to that later. What Shrikant ji asked, I'm going to paraphrase that in English. So there is a very widespread belief about the duration of the 4 yugas, Krita or Satya Yuga, then Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, and then the Kali Yuga that we are in currently. And that is based on Vishnu Purana. In Vishnu Purana, it is in lakhs and lakhs of years. So Kali Yuga itself is of 4,32,000 years, of which we have hardly passed 4,000 or 5,000 years. But what makes it unbelievable is that we haven't existed, we, the Homo sapiens, have not existed on Earth so long. हम इस दुनिया में, इस पृथ्वी पे इतने पुराने हैं ही नहीं. वैज्ञानिकों का कहना है कि मानव का इस धरातल पर जो अस्तित्व है वो 3 लाख वर्षों से अधिक नहीं है. तो अगर ये सारे युग अगर लाखों वर्षों के हैं, तो ये कौन थे फिर? राम कौन थे? कृष्ण कौन थे? ये क्या एलियंस थे क्या, या फिर हमारी तरह ही मानव थे? मानव के का अवतार उन्होंने लिया था, या फिर वो ईश्वर थे, वो परब्रह्म थे, क्या थे? इन सभी सवालों से रहस्योद्घाटन करेंगे Jijith Nadumuri Ravi. Over to you, Jijith. How do you explain the timing, the conclusion on the timing of Ramayana that you have arrived at?
धन्यवाद. एंड मेरा प्रणाम जो हिंदी ऑडियंस और अंग्रेजी ऑडियंस को मेरा प्रणाम, बोथ ऑडियंस इंग्लिश एंड हिंदी. So as Surajit has rightly framed, and as well as Srikant, the biggest problem in understanding our ancient history, which is recorded in terms of the 4 yugas, is because most of the people are unaware of the entire history of the yugas. जो हम लोग चतुर्युगा बोलता है, उसका भी एक हिस्ट्री है, एक chronology है. So when we look at the ancient text like Vedanga Jyotisha, which is the oldest astronomy text, which is also one of the Angas, 6 auxiliary text for Vedas to understand the Vedas. So Vedanga Jyotisha is focused on the astronomy. So in that Vedanga Jyotisha, the yuga is defined as 5 years in duration. One yuga is 5 years in duration, and there were 4 such yugas of 5-year duration, and total it was only 20 years. So it may be very surprising to the audience, but anybody who can search into the Vedanga Jyotisha, they will understand this. And not only that, Mahabharata, which is the subject of my 3rd book, and you can see it behind me, the 3 books. One is the blue color is the reverse of Rgveda, the brown color is geography of Ramayana, and the red color that is published last year. Probably that is why it is not very easily coming into the Google searches. This is in 2 volumes, and it is the Mahabharata. So in the Mahabharata, there is a very famous passage between Bhishma Pitamaha and Duryodhana. After Arjuna was sighted in Virata, that is a Matsya battle. So Bhishma and Duryodhana were all there, and Arjuna appears in front of them for battle with them. And then Duryodhana said, look, the Pandavas, they have revealed themselves, they have not completed the 13 years. Before that, they have come, and so they have to go back again for another 13 years. They have to go to forest life and incognito life. Then Bhishma calculates and says, no, you are wrong. Because based on my calculation, the Pandavas have completed the 2 Panchavarshiya yugas, which are part of the 13 years, and all the adhimasas, there is additional months and additional days that supposed to have been happening in 13 years. What he is saying is, there were 2 5-year yugas inside the 13 years, and Pandavas have completed that 5-year yugas. 2 5-year yugas he has completed, and all the additional months, because there will be some residual months also in the Panchavarsha Yuga calculation. They have completed that. And there are certain additional days, even that also completed. So by all respect, the Pandavas have completed the 13 years. So here we can see the practical use of the Vedanga Jyotisha Panchavarsha Yuga, the 5-year Yuga, inside the real life of the Pandavas. And when we dig deeper, and because it's not only me, there are many other researchers who have studied Vedanga Jyotisha. So they have also analyzed the definition of yuga, mention of yuga in the Rigveda and other Vedas. So everywhere, if you derive the meaning, it is not bigger than the Panchavarshiya yuga. So whatever yuga was there in Mahabharata, the same kind of yuga is inferred in the Rigveda. And Ramayana, the Rama's lifetime, definitely it is older than Pandava's lifetime, but not later. Not older than the Rigveda. So it is in between the Rigvedic, the famous kings like Sudas, Sahadeva, and Somaka. So Rama's lifetime is after them, and definitely he is older than the Pandavas. So what we understand is during the Rama's lifetime also, the yuga that is active is the Panchavarsha yuga, 5-year yuga. And there will be 4 equal Panchavarsha yugas added up to 20 years. Now, definitely a lot of us will question, then what is this yuga of millions of years? So that is another part of my study, which actually I have started before writing the 3 books. So that is a Saturn-Jupiter cycle, which is my specialty as being as a scientist from ISRO. I study the motions of planets. So Jupiter and Saturn cycles is one of my area of study. So within every 20 years, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunct in any of the signs, and in every 60 years, they will conjunct in a particular sign like Kumbha Rashi, etc. So when you have a 20-year yuga, it is easy to calculate the starting and end of the 20-year yuga when you correspond it with the 20-year cycle of Saturn-Jupiter. So that way, the 20-year Chatur Yuga got synchronized with the 20-year Saturn-Jupiter cycle, because both of them have the same cycle of 20 years. And later on, because it is always better to calculate the residues for a bigger and bigger duration. So then these ancient people, after the lifetime of Pandavas, of course, the subsequent to our lifetime, like after the lifetime of Pandavas to somewhere a little more earlier than the Sunga Gupta period, these cycles continuously increased from 20 years to 60 years, 60 years to 120 years, 120 years to 1200 years, 1200 to 12,000 years, and finally to 12,000 got multiplied by 360, and you have got 4.32 million years Chatur Yuga. So anybody can calculate. You can take the calculator. 12,000 multiplied by 360 is 4.32 million Chatur Yuga. So this is the kind of history we have for the Yuga system. So what happens is that whatever Panchanga that we are now following, these are all based on the last transformation of the Chatur Yuga, which is the 4.32 million year Chatur Yuga. And we are not able to understand all this layering, all this transformation that has happened in the Yuga system. And then automatically in our mind, we are thinking that Rama has been in the Treta Yuga of millions of years ago. But once you understand the history of the Chatur Yuga, then you will not get this kind of confusing chronology where we have to date Sri Rama before the Homo sapiens emerged, etc. So this is the first key, first secret key of the chronology that I have unlocked in my books based on my study in the...
जिजित ने जो कहा हमारे हिंदी के श्रोताओं के लिए वो मैं बहुत संक्षेप में बता देता हूं कि महाभारत में एक ऐसा प्रकरण आता है जहां कौरवों के बीच इस बात को लेकर बहस होती है कि पांडवों का अज्ञातवास पूर्ण हुआ कि नहीं विराट युद्ध के बाद, और उस समय भीष्म पितामह जो गणना बताते हैं वो जिजित के अन्वेषण का, उनकी खोज की शुरुआत है, वहां से वो शुरुआत करते हैं। वैसे हमारे बीच जो चर्चा हुई है उसमें जिजित ने मुझे ये भी बताया कि कई और प्रमाण उन्होंने खोज किए, और चूंकि उनकी विशेषता ये रही है वो इसरो में काम कर चुके हैं, वो आईआईटी से पढ़े हुए हैं, और एस्ट्रोनॉमी जो है वो उनकी विशेषता है, वो उनका मेजर सब्जेक्ट है। तो इसलिए उनको इसमें और सहजता हुई इन गणनाओं को करते हुए। तो जिजित जी हमें ये बताइए, ये समझाइए आप, that if Ramayana is so close to us and Mahabharata has been so close to us, why are they not part of our history curriculum in school? Because then we have, studied, if we talk about ancient India, nothing before the Mauryas. And before the Mauryas, the part that was taught to us in schools, history education separately starts in class 6 when we are taught prehistoric history. That is the early man, the Paleolithic age, the Neolithic age, etc., etc. And Bronze Age and Iron Age come much later. तो आप ये बताइए कि अगर रामायण और महाभारत हमारे इतने नजदीक है समय के हिसाब से, तो पाठ्य पुस्तक का अंश क्यों नहीं है?
Yeah. It is a very interesting question. One is that the books like no, whatever I have written that has come out in the just in the 2020s. Like my first book, the Rgveda, came out in 2021, and I mean 2022. Second book in 2023, and the third book in 2024. So all of them are just 3 years old. And of course, some of the universities are teaching my book. The Rivers of Rgveda is already been taught in the Amrita University as a course. And the Geography of Ramayana also last year I have completed one lecture series. And this year Hindu University of America is teaching the Rivers of Rgveda. And the new book also is part, like this year, there is a plan to teach the new book, Geography of Mahabharata with Amrita University. So this is only slowly getting acknowledged by the universities, and I'm talking in the various forums like this in different universities. So most of the time,
before they included your book in their curriculum, did they have discussions with you?
Yes, I have done some lectures, one single day lectures and seminars, where I have entirely presented the books, the findings of the books, 3 books. And from there, they have thought about having it being getting taught. I mean, of course, this is being taught onto a special audience, so it's not like kind of a paper in the university. That is yet to come, but it's a special audience, including lecturers, students.
Is it a part of historical studies or religious studies?
Currently, it is being part of taught as a cultural studies, like as part of the the universities, there are cultural study programs. So as part of that, it is being taught. And there are certain
मैंने आपसे इसलिए पूछा जिजित जी, मैंने आपसे इसलिए पूछा क्योंकि इसको अगर आप संस्कृति या धर्म से जोड़कर न देखें और इसको आप इतिहास के रूप में देखें, तो एक बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न उठ जाएगा, क्योंकि इतिहास केवल तर्क के आधार पे नहीं चलता, केवल गणना के आधार पे नहीं चलता, प्रमाण के आधार पे चलता है। तो आपके पास प्रमाण क्या है? ठीक है, मैंने मान लिया कि आप बहुत बड़े वैज्ञानिक हैं, आप इसरो में काम कर चुके हैं, आप आईआईटी से पढ़े हुए हैं, लेकिन ये सब तो तर्क है ना। एविडेंस क्या है? हार्ड एविडेंस क्या है कि राम आज से महज 4000 वर्ष पहले थे हमारे बीच? इसका मतलब ठोस प्रमाण क्या है? आपके पास आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस है, पुरातत्व का कुछ है आपके पास? जी
सो अभी आजकल हम देखे जाए तो दिस रामायण का जो पॉपुलर डेटिंग हमें देखे जाए तो देयर आर सर्टेन रिसर्चर्स who already rejected the Chandrayuga systems of 4.3 million because nobody can date based on that, because it goes to before Homo sapiens emerged on the planet Earth. So there are certain dates of 12,209 BC for Sri Rama, and there is another date in 5,114 BC. So one is in the 13th millennium, very close to the Ice Age, in the Paleolithic period. Another is in the 6th millennium, that is in the Mesolithic period. So I am just mentioning because these periods, the dates which are come out for the Rama in the Mesolithic and the Paleolithic period, in terms of archaeological evidence, they are very poor. Because in the Paleolithic period, the people used stone tools, very primitive stone tools, and in the Mesolithic period they used polished tools. So apart from, I mean, just giving a kind of an adrenaline rush, okay, Rama is there in 12,000 BC, it adds to nothing, because you are ultimately reducing Sri Rama as a hunter-gatherer, Paleolithic hunter-gatherer with some stone tools when you are putting in him 13th millennium, and he reduced to a Mesolithic hunter-gatherer in somewhere in the 6th millennium. And whatever my dating, so it is based on the presence of iron that is in the Indo-Gangetic plain, which is we are getting starting from 2200 BC and very strong dates from 2000 BC onwards. And in the Valmiki Ramayana, if you look at the material evidence, so it is not only the astronomy positions of planets, but there are a lot of time signatures, like Rama used iron weapons, which is very rare. The researchers will focus on this because this is a material evidence from Valmiki Ramayana. Iron weapons called Narachas that Sri Rama has used. Even Pandavas also used it. And Rama has used chariots, that is horse-driven chariots. So that is another time signature that Ramayana is giving. So the reason is because just like your mobile phone, like if somebody says that I am using mobile phones, that when you can date that person, because the mobile phones started appearing in like the most primitive versions in the 1970s, etc., and the advanced versions like Samsung Galaxy definitely in 2010. So when you say I am using Samsung Galaxy, you know that that you are talking from somewhere around 2010 period. So similarly, the chariots, when I say horse-driven war chariots, it is a particular evolution in the chariots history. And such kind of chariots emerged by 2200 BC. If you go 1000 years more in the past, like in 3300 BC, there were chariots, but driven by bull and other animals like antelope. And so many, Rgveda mentions so many chariots driven by bull and antelopes and such animals. That region, like between.
एक और सोचने का विषय ये है जिजित जी, श्रीकांत जी, कि हमारी जो धरती है, भारत की धरती है, वो बहुत हरी भरी है, हरियाली से भरी हुई है, और सेंट्रल एशिया जो है वो ग्रास लैंड है, वहां पे अच्छे बड़े बड़े पेड़ भी नहीं उगते हैं। तो जो गौ माता जो है, गाय जो है, बैल है, इनको तो घास चरने की आवश्यकता होती है। तो इनको जितनी हरियाली भारत में मिलेगी, उतनी हरियाली इनको उज्बेकिस्तान या कजाकिस्तान पे तो मिलेगी नहीं। तो इसलिए भी जो आर्यन इन्वेजन थियरी है या माइग्रेशन थियरी है, वो गलत साबित हो जाता है। लेकिन जिजित जी, आपने समय के साथ साथ जो आपने अपने जो तर्क दिए कि किस तरह से आप इस नतीजे पे पहुंचे कि रामायण कब घटित हुई होगी, मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि जिस प्रकार से मान लीजिए हम गुप्त काल के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, मौर्य काल के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, तो उनके प्रासाद कहां पर थे, उनका यहां तक कि बाथरूम कहां पर था। अगर आप हड़प्पा मोहनजोदारो की बात करें तो बाथरूम की भी बात की गई है। उसमें उनका जो सिटाडेल होता था, उनका जो दुर्ग होता था, प्राचीर होता था, उसका भी उल्लेख है। उनका सैनिटेशन सिस्टम कैसा था, ऐसा भी उल्लेख है। लेकिन रामायण महाभारत में हम ऐसा कुछ नहीं देखते हैं। ये क्यों फिर एब्सेंट क्यों है ये इसमें से? जी।
So actually I have done a lot of study on the climate of India. So what happens is that in the Indus Valley civilization, the most of the we get the royal baths, of course not the entire building but the foundations of all these like citadels, everything. And most of them, their construction is made of very hardened stone, baked stones, etc. But subsequently, if you look at the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are basically talking about palaces made of wood. Actually, this is also in one of the passage between Yudhishthira and the other Pandavas, because they were sent to the Varanavata, and the Duryodhana tried to burn them in a house of lac.
Hold your thought right there. I'll ask some questions that arise out of what you have presented so far. But before we proceed, हम अपने श्रोताओं को बताना चाहते हैं कि ये जो कार्यक्रम हम कर रहे हैं, ये केवल स्वधर्म नहीं बल्कि इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स और सिद्धांत नॉलेज फाउंडेशन की तरफ से आपके समक्ष लाया जा रहा है। इसलिए आप इस वीडियो में स्वधर्म के साथ साथ इन दो संस्थाओं के लोगोस भी देख सकते हैं, और उनकी तरफ से भी कई ऐसे प्रश्न हैं, और हमें अपने स्वधर्म के दर्शकों के तरफ से भी बहुत सारे ये प्रश्न भेजे गए हैं जो हम जिजित से करेंगे जब उनको ये जानकारी मिली कि हम ये साक्षात्कार करने वाले हैं। तो उन्होंने अपने अपने प्रश्न भेजे हैं, तो वो प्रश्न भी इस कार्यक्रम के दौरान किए जाएंगे। तो जिजित आप जारी रखिए, बस ये बात समझा दीजिए कि आप कह रहे हैं कि हड़प्पा मोहनजोदारो ये जो सभ्यताएं हैं 19 के लगभग समय की बात ये है, तो फिर हमें जब हड़प्पा सिविलाइजेशन के बारे में पढ़ाया जाता है, इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन के बारे में पढ़ाया जाता है, उसमें ये तो नहीं लिखा है कि राम यहाँ से गुजरे थे या पांडव यहाँ से गुजरे थे। क्यों, ऐसा क्यों है, वो फिर एब्सेंट क्यों है?
This is because of the nature, the way in which the study of the archaeological study of the Indus Valley civilization, they treated it as a separate study compared to the literature analysis of Rgveda, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And I made a big leap of change from my first book, Rivers of Rgveda, where I have equated the early and matured phase of the Harappan period is exactly equal to the early, matured and late phase of the Rigveda. So I get both the geographical the span, that is the easternmost river mentioned in the Rigveda is Ganga, and westernmost river is Kabul river, Kupha river. And exactly in the Harappan cities, if you look at it is spanning from the west of Ganga onwards, the eastern Afghanistan, exactly like how it is depicted in the Rigveda. And the northernmost river in the Rgveda is in the Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir rivers, tributaries of Sindhu river, the Gilgit river, etc. is mentioned in the Rgveda. And northernmost Harappan sites are in Kashmir. And southernmost, you get the Harappan sites like Dholavira and Lothal, etc. in Gujarat. And exactly like that, the Rgveda mentioned Saraswati and Sindhu draining into that same Arabian Sea and ran off Kutch. So, if you analyze and plot the map of all the rivers in the Rigveda, around 31 plus rivers, and if you also make a geographical map of all the cities in the Harappan civilization, which is correctly named as Saraswati Sindhu civilization, they are matching exactly same. So we are actually seeing the early and matured Harappan period is the Rigvedic period, and the late Rigvedic period where there is a decline. And that decline period is the Aitihasic period where Rama and Pandavas lived. And that is what in our sense, in our psychological Yuga, sense of Yuga, it is declining. Because there was a glorious Krita Yuga, which is actually the Rigvedic period. The early and matured Harappan is the kind of like a Krita Yuga. And then you have late Rigvedic period, where late Harappan period, where everything is in decline phase. Saraswati dried up. And people were moving toward eastern direction for a better river like Yamuna and Ganga. And that is the period which is depicted in the Itihasas. Because you see this Varanavata, which is connected to Pradipa, and Pradipa's son Shantanu is connected to Hastinapura, which is slightly eastward in the Ganga. And in the Ramayana, you see Sagara connecting with Saraswati. Amshumat, Sagara's grandson Amshumat is connecting with the Yamuna. That is why Yamuna is called Amshumati. And you have Amshuman's grandson, Bhagiratha, connected with Bhagirathi, which is Ganga. And after the Bhagiratha, the descendants of Bhagiratha are Raghu, Kakusta, and Aja, and Dasharatha, and Sri Rama. They are connected further east to Sarayu river. So you can see in the Aitihasic period, people moved from Saraswati to Yamuna, Ganga, and the tributaries of Ganga. Both the Ikshvaku lineage as well as the Kuru lineage moved from the Saraswati, the drying up Saraswati, to better rivers like Yamuna and Ganga, and then the tributaries of Ganga. So that is what captured in the Itihasas, and there is a declining happening. When you follow the trail of Sri Rama, Atri Asrama will be in the border of Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Slightly to the south is a Virada Kund area. Bundelkhand area. There is it is Chitrakoot, Chitrakoot is comes very close to the border between Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
And slightly few kilometers, like less than 5 kilometers. So Chitrakoot is in Uttar Pradesh, but Atri Assam is exactly near to the border of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. And remaining every place is in Madhya Pradesh. For example, Sharabanga Asrama is inside Madhya Pradesh. It is today known as Sharbanga. It is very easy to find out. No, not very different. And then Sudishna Asrama is in the source of origin of the Sapna river. And it is also if locals call it Sudikshan Ashram, like that, the memory is there today itself. And then you go down further south, you have Agastya Asrama, that memory also there. I get it from the tradition only, like Siddhanath Mandir. Siddhanath Mandir is mentioned as Agastya Asrama. Now, if you many of our traditional sadhu munis, rishi munis in Madhya Pradesh, when they ask where is Agastya Ashrama, they will say Siddhanath Mandir. So that same Siddhanath Mandir is what I have considered in my location
You're
of the
saying
Agastya.
that Rama did not go further south from there. That was the maximum
Huh.
southernmost tip
Correct,
that he
correct.
went to.
Correct. And because in the Valmiki Ramayana, Agastya gives a direction, like you can establish your own Parnashala, that is your own Parnashala in a place called Panchavadi, and that is to the north of the Agastya Asrama.
Where is
And this is
Kishkinda then? Where is Kishkinda?
correct. So he goes, see, after each, I will tell you in the sequence so that will be understand. So after Agastya Asrama, he goes to the north. So that means he returned in the opposite direction, not in the further south. He goes slightly eastwards. So it's a northeastwards he moves, and he reaches the same Satna river, and there he establishes his asrama in a place called Asrama Mandala. It's a region of asramas of Rishi Munis. In one end of the Satna river, you have Sudeshna Asrama. In the other end of the Satna river, where it joins Ganga, you have Valmiki Asrama. And the Satna river is the Tamasa river. So in this Tamasa river, it is also having a synonymous name called Godavari, which is what confusing everybody. So Satna river and Godavari were the same river. And so on the Satna river, that is in the Tamasa river or Godavari river, all the same river, you have Panchavadi Asrama. From there, after that, the Ravana's abduction, Sita's abduction by Ravana happens, and Rama searched for Sita. So he went to Janasthana, that is the city of Satna, whatever capital city of Satna, that is Janasthana. Slight change in the name, the pronunciation. Satna, Janasthana becomes Satna. And from there, he went southwards to Kabanda location. And Kabanda is another person who gives him direction to Kishkinda. And again, there is an important direction, go to west. So there also you don't see south here. See, one place you see north, from Agastya Asrama to Panchavadi, it is northern direction. And from Kabanda location to Kishkinda, it is western direction. Nowhere there is a south here. So from Kabanda location, if you travel in the westward path, there is a path you can even see in satellite maps, that path. Between the mountains, different folds, different branches or mountain folds of Vindhya ranges, you have a westward path. If you follow that westward path, you will reach the Narmada river. And that is why I identified Lanka on the Narmada river. And not only this, because the three ancestors of Ravana, that is Malyavat, Mali, and Sumali, they are mentioned as marrying daughters of Narmada. So that is this is a political statement that is shrouded in poetry. That means the Rakshasas were established themselves on the Narmada river. Just like we say Shantanu married Ganga. Shantanu married Ganga means Shantanu, the king, established himself on Ganga. Similarly, Ravana's grandfathers, Malyavat, Mali, and Sumali, they married daughters of Narmada. That means they established in Narmada river. So we call it.
आपके अनुसार हिंदुत्व में यदि किसी मानव में ही अद्भुत शक्तियां आ जाती हैं और वो मतलब हर तरफ गुणों से परिपूर्ण हो जाता है, जैसे श्री कृष्ण के बारे में कहा जाता है कि 16 कलाओं या 64 कलाओं में परिपूर्ण थे वो, तब आप उनको ईश्वर का स्थान दे सकते हैं। आपके अनुसार ये है। और आपके और कुछ और भी महानुभावों के मैं सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट पढ़ता रहता हूं, जैसे कलवई वेंकट हैं, उनका भी मैंने लिखा हुआ पढ़ता रहता हूं। उनका भी ये कहना है कि हजारों वर्षों तक जो वैदिक शिक्षा होती थी वो एक प्रकार की नास्तिक शिक्षा थी, और बाद में जाकर कुछ लोगों ने देवी देवता ईश्वर वगैरह उन्होंने रचा। लेकिन इससे देखिए इस थियोरी में एक गड़बड़ क्या है। एक तो ये है कि यदि आप कहते हैं कि सिर्फ मानव ही थे, ईश्वर या फिर सुपरनैचुरल कुछ नहीं था, तो और आप पुराणों के बजाय वेदों को अपना आधार मानते हैं, तो वेदों में भी शिव का नाम लिया गया है, दुर्गा का नाम लिया गया है। तो विष्णु के केस में तो चलिए हम मान लेते हैं कि उन्होंने मानव अवतार लिया, इसलिए आपने कह दिया कि ठीक है वो मानव ही थे, असाधारण मानव थे, मान लिया। आप शिव को कैसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, आप दुर्गा को कैसे एक्सप्लेन करेंगे?
इसमें मैं एक और चीज सर, एक मिनट, एक चीज जोड़ रहा हूं। तो क्या आप कल्कि का अवतार नहीं मानते हैं कि कल्कि का अवतार होगा?
हाँ, वो भी मैं बात करता हूँ। पहले ये जो हम लोग का इतिहास और पुराण में कुछ डिफरेंस है। So maybe I'll speak in English. So in the Itihasa, the claim itself is that it is history, like it happened thus. So both Vyasa and Valmiki are presenting this Sri Rama as well as Sri Krishna and Pandavas as historical individuals. And if you look at the Shankaracharya, for example, Shankaracharya is nobody doubts Shankaracharya is a historical person. Once Shankaracharya as a person, he has lived for 32 years. And after that, you can see a lot of poetic narratives about Shankaracharya. Like Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Shiva. And there are places where there are some poetic narrative about Shankaracharya that he instantly transformed from one place to another. So this is natural in when you hundreds of years past, extraordinary individuals, they will get magical narratives attached to them. And Shivaji or Durga, they are nowhere in our itihasas, they are not treated as historical entities. But Rama,
they are in the Vedas. They are in the Vedas. Shiva appears as Rudra. Durga appears as Shakti.
In Rigveda also, Shiva or appears as a Rudra, and never Rudra is described as a historical entity. Rudra is always a divine entity.
ऋग्वेद में शिव जो है वो विशेषण है, वो संज्ञा नहीं है. शिव का नाम जहां जहां ऋग्वेद में आता है, it's an adjective and not a noun. हाँ, ठीक सही बोल रहा है. आगे आगे बताइए.
So if you have to have a distinction between Shiva, Durga, or you can say, certain there are divinities, Ganesha, for example. So we don't do a kind of historical analysis of these divinities because they are beyond history, they are beyond the chronological timeline. Whereas Krishna or Ram, Pandavas, even Shankaracharya, they are all part of the historical timeline. So, and one more thing, many people mistake, I am completely banishing the divinity or magical, not like that. So I'm saying like, if for example, I can conceptualize or I can agree, there is a divine entity called Vishnu. But once Vishnu decided to be part of the space-time, that is what we call history and chronology, right? Once he decided to be part of the space-time, he will agree with all the rules and regulations of the space-time. And so you don't expect miraculous etc. from that kind of a personality, because that is cheating. If you come to the space-time and then become a human being and then you behave differently, that will be like a failure. I would say it is a failure. So they will play with the book, right? So once they are part of our timeline, they interact with
so you are not an atheist, although you are studying Ramayana and Mahabharata materialistically. You are saying that, well, this is an aspect of our civilization which can be proven, which can be established as a part of our past, although there are elements of divinity like Shiva, like Durga, like Ganesha, whom you do not reject. You are not rejecting them, right?
Yes. I am not rejecting.
आप कह रहे हैं आप नास्तिक नहीं हैं.
In the consciousness, because these are all elements of the consciousness. So anyway, this is part of my current book what I am writing, Dharmic Grand Narrative. So whatever we call it Sankalpa, now people say Sankalpa we translate as imagination, but it is not imagination. Sankalpa means collective realization, because some means collectiveness. So Kalpa means realization. So even what we call the real universe. So because this is the opinion of scientists, cosmologists. Whatever we call the real universe, which is having so many laws, gravity, time, chronology is there, past and future is there. This universe itself is a sankalpa. That is, it is a kind of a collective, like a collective dreaming. That scientists also themselves are saying. So who am I to say there is no sankalpa like Ganesha or no sankalpa like Durga or no sankalpa like Shiva? So our own universe is a sankalpa. So that way, this divinities, these are all collective kind of whatever constructs we create in our consciousness, not by one individual but thousands and millions of individuals. So they are as real as the universe. So I am not denying divinity or magic. I am not even denying magic also, because the universe itself is a magic. So what I am saying is, once certain events are happening in our chronology, they are subjected to certain rules, like gravitational rules. Now, if Vishnu comes and part of the universe, if he doesn't obey gravitational law, that is a failure. I mean, that is a failure in his acting. That's what I would say. So I say once the divinity comes and embodies into a body and part of our chronology, that is what we also call space time or our universe, our materialistic universe, he will be a materialistic entity. He will subject to pain. He will be feeling sad. I mean, all these things. So that's what Valmiki Ramayana, Sri Rama is having anger also. That what happened, like I agree with Kalave Venkat, is that there was after Gupta period, there was a period of decline, and then you have a lot of invasions, everything happened. So people were emotionally very disturbed. And the entire Hindu psyche got a beating. So that time the Bhakti tradition started emerging. And they started denying any single point of blemish on Sri Rama. That is why Tulsi Ramayana happened during the Islamic invasion. Tulsi Ramayana is written in 15th century CE. So that time the entire North India was under Islamic invasion. So at that time their only hope was Sri Rama. And they don't want to see a single blemish on the character of Sri Rama. So that's why they even defy Valmiki. Because Valmiki has depicted the anger, emotion of anger, no, Sri Rama's emotion of anger to Sita. Valmiki has depicted, but the bhaktas, the devotees in the 15th century was not ready to accept it. So they have Tulsi Ramayana, where they have cleaned up all, they have completely filtered out everything. No, Rama becoming angry, that is filtered out. Rama becomes sad, they will be filtered out. They even say that this Rama didn't abandon Sita, because these are all, their devotional mind is not able to accept any of these things. Similar to Sri Krishna also. So this has happened in the last 500 years, I would say.
और ये भी था इसके साथ साथ कि ये जब ईसाई यहाँ पर आए और मुसलमान यहाँ पर आए, तो उनकी सभ्यताओं में जो महिला का एक पोजीशन है वो इस तरह से है कि उस महिला को कोई छू नहीं सकता, उसे कोई देख नहीं सकता। तो इसलिए उनके साथ कंपीट करने के लिए, उनके साथ प्रतिस्पर्धा करने के लिए हमने माता सीता को एक ऐसा चरित्र बना दिया कि जिसको रावण छू ही नहीं सकता। आप ये कह रहे हैं, है ना?
वही कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि इसीलिए हमें ये सब ट्रेडिशन आके, वो रामायण में नहीं है, ये सब ट्रेडिशन आके एक अलग सीता है। वो सीता तो अग्निदेव के साथ था, और रावण ने जो अपडेट किया सीता वो अलग था। वो सब जो साइकोलॉजिकल बैलेंसिंग एक्ट है। मतलब वाल्मीकि ने कुछ ऐसे कुछ नहीं कहा। वाल्मीकि ने कहा है कि वो मैं एक्सप्लेन करेंगे तो कुछ लोग डिस्टर्ब होगा कि वाल्मीकि ने बताया।
लोग तो अभी तो इनफैक्ट क्या है, मैं तो कई लोगों से कहता हूं कि आपको अगर किताब नहीं खरीदनी है पुस्तकालय से जाकर या फिर किसी दुकान से जाकर, तो आप IIT कानपुर का जो वेबसाइट पर है रामायण, वाल्मीकि रामायण IIT के, आप पढ़िए उसको। उसमें आपको संस्कृत में भी मिल जाएगा, अंग्रेजी का अनुवाद भी मिलेगा, हिंदी का भी अनुवाद मिलेगा, वो पढ़िए। तो कई बार क्या होता है कि जो प्राचीन पुस्तकें हैं, हमारे ग्रंथ हैं, उनमें कुछ ऐसी बातें लिखी होती है जो कि आधुनिक जगत में हम पढ़ते हैं तो हम हो सकता है कि हमारे मन को ठेस पहुंचे, तो हम अपने मुंह से क्यों कहें, वो पढ़ लीजिए आप वहां पर। लेकिन इसके बाद जिजित जी, जैसा कि हमने अपने श्रोताओं से कहा और मैंने श्रीकांत जी को भी वो सारे प्रश्न जो हमारे श्रोता और पाठक हमें भेजते हैं, और फिर जो इंडिक नॉलेज सिस्टम से और स्मार्ट अर्थात समाचार मान्यता एसोसिएशन फॉर रिसर्च एंड ट्रेनिंग, इन सब की तरफ से हमारे पास जो प्रश्न आए हैं वो हम आपसे एक एक करके पूछेंगे। तो पहला प्रश्न ये है कि ये सभ्यता के लेंस से इतिहास को देखना कितना आवश्यक है, ये प्रश्न हमारे श्रोताओं का है। आप कृपया इसका उत्तर दीजिए। श्रीकांत जी, आप काफी शांत रहे अब तक, आप भी प्रश्न कर सकते हैं इसके बाद। जी जिजित जी, I'll read the question in English. Why is it important, according to you, to have education that is rooted in civilizational perspectives, especially in a globalized world? जी बताइए जिजित जी।
मैं थोड़ा हिंदी और थोड़ा इंग्लिश में बताने की कोशिश करेंगे। पहले तो people frame this historicity by comparing it with the Bible and Islamic history, etc. And some people complain that the Hindus are trying to be competing with Christianity and Islam and trying to create historical narrative for our belief systems or our literature or our our scriptures. But that is not what happening, right? Why I am studying it is not for make it equal. I don't have any inferiority complex with this Abrahamic tradition. In fact, I consider them very inferior to Sanatana Dharma. So my objective is different, because in our chronology, जो हम लोग स्कूल में पढ़ता है, वो चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य तक वो हिस्ट्री मानते हैं, लेकिन आगे चंद्रगुप्त का कुछ पूर्व पितामह है, or even somebody who is living in some 500 years ago, they become mythological. So this is an imbalance that I am trying to address. So I am seeing that there is, in the Puranas are a very peculiar text, because they came after the Rigveda and after the Itihasas, even though they attribute to Vyasa, but a lot of part of the Puranas are authored in the Sunga Gupta period and the period in between Kurukshetra War and the Sunga Gupta period. So it has passed through the Mauryan period and Sunga period, Gupta period, etc., and contains all the names of all the kings. Soon after the Kurukshetra War, there was many dynasties like Brihadrata dynasty, which is ruling from Magadha, then Haryanga, Shishunaga, and then after that Nanda dynasty, and then Mauryan dynasty, then Kannuvas, then this Shadavahanas, then Sungas and Guptas. So all the names of the kings you get it from Puranas. Even the mainstream historians get the names of the kings of these lineages from the Puranas, but they are not ready to accept one statement in the Purana which says Mahapadmananda's coronation happened after 1000 years after the birth of Parikshit. So Parikshit is born 1 year after Kurukshetra War. So just 1 year after Kurukshetra War, Parikshit is born, and after 1500 years, different Puranas give some slight different dates, like some Purana says 1015 years, but largest I have seen is 1500 years. So this statement is also in the Puranas, but the same mainstream historian, the Romaliya Thapara and other such people, they cannot consider Parikshit as historical. So they will extract all the names of the kings in the Brihadrata dynasty, etc. from Puranas, but they reject the Purana when it comes to a statement, direct statement from an Aitihasic king to a historical king. So Parikshit is an Aitihasic king and Mahapadmananda is a historical king. So we have a bridge, like Valmiki Ramayana में हम लोग राम सेतु करके. So पुराण में एक bridge है, chronological bridge है, that is connecting Parikshit with Mahapadmananda. In that they will reject the Parikshit and only accept Mahapadmananda as a historical. My 3 books are against this kind of historical distortion, and this is my mission, that all my 3 books are actually refuting this particular nonsense. And my objective is to extend our historicity from the some Mauryan period and Nanda period up to.
आप मुझे लगता है कि 2-3 सेकंड का रेस्ट लेकर पानी पी सकते हैं.
For some time.
हाँ, please, पहले पानी
ऑन कैमरा पानी पी सकते हैं, कोई हर्ज नहीं है उसमें.
सच कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, प्लीज.
After some time speaking, I get tough actually. Yeah, so I will repeat it. Maybe you can edit it. So what is the problem is that there is a chronological bridge. On one end, and you have Mahapadmananda coronation, and the other end is the birth of Parikshit. This is also mentioned in the Puranas, but the mainstream historians, they cut the bridge into 2 halves. They only take Mahapadmananda as historical. Parikshit they reject. They say he is a mythological king. So I am trying to eliminate this distortion, and I am trying to extend the historicity of our Bharatiya Itihas, Bharatiya history, from this period of Mauryans, Nandas, back up to Kurukshetra War. And once you are reaching Kurukshetra War, once you accept Parikshit as a historical king, then there is no go back, because Parikshit have his own father Abhimanyu, Abhimanyu's father Arjuna, Arjuna's father Pandu. Then it goes all the way up to Shantanu, and once Shantanu, then Shantanu is in Rgveda, and in the Rgveda you have Shantanu as one of the youngest king. He is in 10th mandala. So you have so many rajas, so many kings in the early Rigvedic period, like Bharata, Srinjaya, then Devodasa, Pradardhanas, Sudas, then Sahadeva, Somaka. So your history will extend up to early Rigvedic period. And in the Rigveda itself, Manu, Ila, Pururavas, Ayus, Nakusha, Yayati, Yaya these five sons who created Yadu, Turos, no, this Puros, Anu, Puru, Drihyu. And Anu is a founder of the Iranian people, Anu. And the Drihyus are the founders of the Indo-European languages. And then you have Puru dynasty from where Bharadas are emerging. And from the Bharadas diversified into Kushikas, the Vishwamitra lineage, Panchalas, and the Kurus. And then Manu's daughter Ila's lineage is the Puruvas and all, and son Ikshwaku's lineage is the Ikshwakus. Within the Rigveda, you have Sri Rama as a historical king, mentioned along with Santanu in the 10th mandala. So Sri Rama has become historical. Sri Rama's ancestor Bhagirath is mentioned in the Rigveda. And very indirectly, Amshuman is also mentioned in the Rigveda. Sagara is indirectly mentioned.
इससे पहले आपने ये भी कहा था कि रामायण हालांकि महाभारत के बाद उससे पहले हुआ है, लेकिन ये ओवरलैप है इसमें, मतलब राम के रहते ही ये महाभारत की कहानी भी शुरू हो गई थी, आपने कहा था इससे पहले एक प्रश्न में। जी
वो तो मैं शायद ठीक से एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया। मेरा जो 3 बुक्स है वो एक which is written in a kind of a chronology sequence. I call it geochronology sequence. So Rigveda is the root of it, because both itihasas, one of the biggest blame on the 2 itihasas you should understand. Itihasas are not like Rigveda. Rigveda is like a tape recorder. No, even Western Indologists will agree any king mentioned in the Rigveda is historical king, because they agree that Rigveda didn't underwent any kind of edits. It is perfectly like a tape recorder, like a epigraphy. That is, even Michael Witzel agree with that. So, but the Itihasas, without the support of Rigveda, is just 2 books which are continuously edited up to Gupta period. So, because of that, if you just simply claim that no, Rama is there in the Ramayana, see, people with some kind of integrity will not accept it, because Itihas are edited from 2000 BC to 4th century CE. How can you believe? So that is why we have to anchor Aitihasic personalities like Rama and Shantanu with Rigveda. So that is what I did in my first book. I have identified a mention of Sri Rama in the 10th mandala of the Rigveda and confirmed that it is Sri Rama, because in the Shayana's commentary and other commentaries of Rigveda, there is speculation. Now this Rama could be Balarama, this Rama could be Pacharama, this Rama could be Sri Rama. So like that speculatively it mentioned, but I confirmed it in my research. I said no, it cannot be Parashurama because of so and so reason. It cannot be Balarama. It can only be Rama Dasharati. So like that I have, that is my subject of my first book, Rivers of Rigveda. So Sri Rama is confirmed as the king mentioned in the 10th mandala of the Rigveda, and the same 10th mandala have Shantanu also as another king. For Sri Rama there is only 1 verse, but for Shantanu there is 1 sukta. Entire sukta is for Shantanu and his brother Devapi. So both Devapi and Shantanu are mentioned in the Rigveda. So these are very powerful data points from the Rigveda, and Rigveda is accepted by the entire Indologist, not only in India but all over in the world. They accept any king mentioned in the Rigveda as historical kings. This is the importance of the presence of Rama and Shantanu inside the Rigveda. But the corollary is that
लेकिन इसका समाधान क्या है? हमने आपसे पूछा कि क्या विश्वविद्यालयों में ये पाठ्यक्रम का अंश हो गया है, तो आपने कहा कि कल्चरल स्टडीज का अंश हुआ है, अभी हिस्टोरिकल स्टडीज का अंश नहीं हुआ है। लेकिन क्या भारत सरकार से भी आपकी बातचीत हुई है? इसका समाधान क्या? भारत के छात्रों तक ये बातें कब तक पहुंचेंगी?
क्योंकि इसको लेकर कोई कोर्स ऐसा स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ है ना, कोई कोर्स हो या फिर जानने की
हिस्टोरिकल कोर्स
स्टार्ट किया है अभी तक, मुझे जहां तक पता है।
अभी मैंने ये बारे में, इसके बारे में मैंने बहुत सारे यूनिवर्सिटी से बात किया है। तो फर्स्ट दिस इज अ राइट प्रोग्रेशन। सो फर्स्ट acceptance is a cultural studies where people who are interested in the understanding the itihasas as history, the proper history, they can first grasp it. But books are only 3 years old. Now the oldest book is only 3 years old, and the youngest book is just hardly 1 year old. So if you look at the kind of acceptance, it passed through various phases. So first is acceptance in the cultural studies in the universities. That is already happened. More than one university is accepting it. Later stage, there are certain people from the Chennai University who has approached me for guiding a group of researchers to study this based on my book. So I have in principle agreed it. Maybe it will advance in this year. But subsequent phase is no, it acceptance into a mainstream history like in school textbooks. If you look at after 20 years of fight, only this year, I mean last year, we got this alien invasion theory removed from our textbook. So it will take something like 10 years, 20 years for even that kind of a movement. Of course, if government action is quick and fast, then it can be quick and fast. But then reactions, leftist reactions, all these things will create a lot of turmoil and confusion in the country. So that is why slow and steady steps are going on. Srikant Talagiri's research on the Rigveda, it is now 25 years old, but it is still waiting for an acceptance from the mainstream Indology. So these things happen. It takes some time. So, but my research is at least a little more faster. It is moving into cultural studies. But Talagiri is waiting for 25 years and more than that. Yajnadevam's decipherment of Indus script, last year it was announced publicly, even though I know him for 2 years. But it was announced through newspapers, news channels. But you can see, no, it is also in the state of denial. And then first will be the denials, and then will some acceptance, and then slowly cultural studies, and then it goes to the mainstream history. So it is minimum 5 years to 10 years of process that we can see.
श्रोताओं से हमें ये कहना है कि हालांकि हमने अब तक जो है 3 मूल प्रश्न किए हैं जिजित जी से, एक समय के बारे में, एक भूगोल के बारे में और एक प्रमाण के बारे में। लेकिन जिस प्रकार से जिजित जी ने हमें जवाब दिया है, उससे आपके जो प्रश्न हम तक पहुंचे हैं, उनमें से 6 प्रश्न ऑलरेडी कवर हो चुके हैं। वो 6 प्रश्न क्या है वो हिंदी में मैं आपको बता देता हूं, और 7वें प्रश्न से श्रीकांत जी आप पूछ सकते हैं। पहला प्रश्न जो था वो कवर अभी हुआ है कि आपके अनुसार सभ्यतागत दृष्टिकोणों पर आधारित शिक्षा क्यों महत्वपूर्ण है, वो बता चुके हैं जिजित जी। इसके बाद भारत के इतिहास पुराणों के ज्ञान को मुख्य धारा की शिक्षा के साथ प्रभावी रूप से कैसे एकीकृत किया जा सकता है, इसका भी उन्होंने जवाब दे दिया है। इतिहासों की तिथि नंबर 3 है, इतिहासों की तिथि निर्धारण क्यों महत्वपूर्ण है, ये भी वो बता चुके हैं। इतिहासों की तिथि निर्धारण के विभिन्न दृष्टिकोणों और उनके परिणामों पर आपके क्या विचार है, ये थोड़ा सा और जिजित जी आप बता सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये जो डेटिंग का आपका प्रोसेस है, तो जितने भी इंडिक स्कॉलर्स है सभी का प्रोसेस एक नहीं है, आप में और उनके अंदर क्या भेद है, थोड़ा ये चौथे प्रश्न का आप थोड़ा अगर थोड़ा और विस्तार बताएं, फिर 5वां और 6वां भी कवर हो चुका है, हम 7वें पे जा सकते हैं जी।
जो हम लोग आजकल का जो डेटिंग था, मतलब रामायण का 2-3 डेटिंग है, और महाभारत कुरुक्षेत्र का भी डेटिंग है बहुत सारा, more than 12. So for Ramayana there are 2 main datings. One is in the 13th century, 12,209 as the birth date of Rama, and another is in the 6th century, 6th millennium. One is 13th millennium, and one is the 6th millennium, that is 5114 BC by Dr. Saroj Bala, and this 13th millennium is from Nilesh Oak, 1209 BC. The problem for this dating is there, apart from it being exaggerated dates where there is no support with Iron Age or with the horse-driven war chariots, etc., which was later than 2000 BC. Another big problem is their methodology of dating is only a single text dating. So, for example, Nilesh, when he dates Rama, he is only focused on Valmiki Ramayana. He is not focused on interconnection between Rgveda and Ramayana or Ramayana and Mahabharata. So, it is a single text analysis. Whereas my analysis is a triple text analysis, even though I have considered Brahmanas, some of the Brahmanas also I have analyzed, but mainly Rigveda, Ramayana and Mahabharata are triangulated for giving. So they are very solid dates, and it will remove exaggerations. So cross comparison is absent in other researchers. Same with the Mahabharata, because they have most of the Mahabharata, you have 12, more than 12 or more. If you count it, it can be 24 datings. So many number of datings for Kurukshetra War. And it is spanning from Dieter Koch, which is in the 12th century BC, that is 1112, if I remember, 1112 BC, that is in the 12th century BC onwards to Nilesh Oak is again the old exaggerating it to 5561 BC in the 6th millennium. 5561 BC in 6th millennium BC.
नीलेश ओक की जो फाइंडिंग्स है उस पर मेरे भी कुछ प्रश्न हैं, कभी उनको हम अपने कार्यक्रम में बुलाकर पूछेंगे क्योंकि इस वक्त उन पर कोई आरोप लगाना उचित नहीं होगा, वो यहाँ पर है नहीं अपनी फाइंडिंग्स को डिफेंड करने के लिए। क्योंकि खासकर एक प्रश्न मुझे उनसे पूछना है, एक बहुत ही फेमस यूट्यूबर है बियर बाइसेप्स, रणबीर इलाहाबादिया। अब जो है वो इतना पॉपुलर है, उसका कोई भी वीडियो वायरल हो जाता है, उसके रील्स भी वायरल हो जाते हैं, और पिछले साल उनको प्रधानमंत्री ने पुरस्कृत भी किया था। इससे वो और भी ज्यादा फेमस हो गए होंगे। लेकिन उनके साथ सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत क्या है कि वो आदमी मूर्ख है। ये रणबीर इलाहाबादिया जो है, उसको कुछ बात, किसी भी बात का सुंदर चेहरा के पीछे एक उसका थोथा दिमाग है, उसके अंदर कुछ भी नहीं है, और इस वजह से वो पलट प्रश्न नहीं कर सकता है। उसको जो भी आप बता दे वो हाँ 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 करता रहेगा। तो इसलिए कभी मैं उनको बुलाऊंगा, क्योंकि एक बात जो नीलेश ओक कहते हैं कि हमारी हिंदू सभ्यता का प्रभाव साउथ अमेरिका तक था, और इसके लिए वो कुछ कहते हैं, और मुझे हैरानी ये होती है कि जिस वक्त की वो बात कर रहे हैं, जिस समय की बात कर रहे हैं, उस समय भारतीयों के पास ऐसा कोई साधन ही नहीं था कि ग्लोब की दूसरी तरफ पहुंच सके, और ग्लोब की दूसरी तरफ पहुंचकर वो वहां पर वहां की संस्कृति को वो प्रभावित कर सके। तो लेकिन ये प्रश्न मैं उनसे कभी डायरेक्टली पूछूंगा जब उनको हम बुलाएंगे अपने कार्यक्रम पे। तो आप फिलहाल जो है, देर आर क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 and 6 which also you have covered, because the fifth question is about the astronomical, geological, botanical, and archaeological and other scientific evidences that can be used to establish the dating and the geography, which you have already answered. Then the sixth question is, with the focus now on the Indian knowledge system, many courses are being developed and offered based on Itihasas and Bhagavad Gita in management and other areas. So by saying that your books have now become part of the cultural studies in certain universities, you have answered that too. And the seventh question is, what are the pitfalls that course makers and learners should look to avoid contemporizing our itihasas? In a way, you have answered that too. तो आठवें प्रश्न से श्रीकांत जी आप पूछ सकते हैं, जहां पर कि ये हमारी शिक्षा व्यवस्था को किस तरह से आमूल परिवर्तित किया जा सकता है, उस पर प्रश्न किया है। श्रीकांत जी, आप अपने तरीके से पूछिए।
जी, मैं तो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी को इसमें जोड़ूंगा। न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज अगर आप देखें तो उसमें बहुत सारी चीजें नई हैं। अध्ययन, अध्यापन, पठन पाठन, हर एक तरीके में कुछ नयापन है, और कहा जा रहा है कि वो पुरानी जो अंग्रेजी सभ्यता की छाप है हमारे एजुकेशन सिस्टम में, हमारे शिक्षा में, उसको एक तरीके से वो साइडलाइन करेगा और उसमें कुछ नई चीजें आएंगी, क्योंकि प्रांतीय भाषाएं हो, क्षेत्रीय भाषाएं हो, या फिर हमारी मातृभाषा हो, उसको लेकर न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में। लेकिन क्या आपको लगता है कि इस न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में जो आपका कंटेंट है, यानी कि आपका जो शोध है, उसे किस तरीके से उसमें वो बेहतर हो सकता है? कि न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आपने जो शोध किया है या फिर जो आपका विषय है, उसे और कैसे बेहतर तरीके से बता सकता है, समझा सकता है? जी, इसमें कुछ ऐड करना है तो सुजीत जी कर सकते हैं मेरे सवाल में कुछ ऐड, अगर
हाँ
आपको
हाँ,
करना
नहीं,
हो।
आपने अच्छे तरीके से पूछा। हाँ, मैं अभी वैसे काफी सारे प्रश्न पूछ ही चुका हूँ, मुझे भी थोड़ा सा गले को रेस्ट देना है। जी।
ठीक है, आप भी बात कीजिए, क्योंकि देखिए सवाल महत्वपूर्ण है ये, और मैं इसमें एक और चीज जोड़ना चाहूंगा कि क्या आपको लगता है कि ऑथेंटिकेशन, यानी कि आपकी जो 3 किताबें हैं, वो केवल उन्हीं लोगों तक पहुंच सकती है जो एक तरीके से ब्रिलियंट माइंड है, या फिर जो इंग्लिश को बेहतर समझते हैं, या फिर जो इस बैकग्राउंड के हैं, उनको वो इजी टू एक्सेस है और वो उसे समझ भी सकते हैं? लेकिन जब कोई ज्ञान मतलब इसमें मैं ऑक्सफोर्ड का जिक्र करना चाहूंगा। ऑक्सफोर्ड की जो ग्रामर की बुक है, वो गधे को भी समझा सकती है और वो पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट डॉक्टरेट को भी समझा सकती है। तो क्या आपकी किताब का सार, या आपकी किताब अलग अलग भाषाओं में आ रही है और सरल, सहज, और जैसे कि आपने एक एक उदाहरण दिया, आपने वाल्मीकि रामायण की भी बात की, मैं इसमें तुलसी रामायण की बात करता हूँ। वाल्मीकि रामायण की जो भाषा है वो आम जन की भाषा नहीं है, लेकिन तुलसी की जो भाषा है वो आम जन की भाषा है, इसीलिए मुझे लगता है इस विश्व में सबसे ज्यादा अगर कोई पुस्तक बिकी है, बेस्ट सेलर जो है, वो रामचरितमानस है। तो क्या आम जन की भाषा में किताब का अनुवाद करेंगे आप? इसको भी सवाल के अंत में जोड़ लीजिएगा प्लीज।
हाँ, तो मैंने पहले मैं न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का मैं बात करूंगा। इसमें बहुत सारा नया डेवलपमेंट्स आ गया है अभी। व्हाट आई हैव सीन इज द यूनिवर्सिटीज apart from teaching the main subjects, right, they also give a kind of a cultural context to the students. Amrita University is doing that, and many other universities have no they are doing that. तो ये एक important बात है। और as part of new this NEP or new education policy, you can have Indic knowledge systems. In that you can have sacred geography, because this is another important part. Because in the मैंने जो महाभारत का जो तीसरा बुक मैंने लिखा, उसमें जो तीर्थ यात्रा पर्व करके एक पर्व है, जो युधिष्ठिर और बहुत सारा ऋषि मुनिया का तीर्थ यात्रा टू एंटायर इंडिया, and this is also the basis of the sacred geography of Bharata. So compared to the, if you do a geographical analysis of Iliad or Odyssey, and Bharata Varsha का means whatever our Ramayana Mahabharata का geographical analysis हम लोग करते हैं, एक मेन डिफरेंस जो रहता है इलियड और ओडिसी में, जो जो लोकेशंस रहता है उधर, they are not considered as sacred, or no there is no kind of pilgrimage. Nobody does a pilgrimage to Troy, nobody does a pilgrimage to Sparta or Athens. But in our culture, like Ayodhya, जो राम का जो राजधानी सिटी ऑफ राम, अयोध्या इज अ सेक्रेड सिटी। इंद्रप्रस्थ तो पांडवों का इंद्रप्रस्थ तो पॉलिटिकल हो गया, तो दैट इज दिल्ली। But even lot of people, like even including me, we have gone to Indraprasth conferences 3-4 times, and there are certain sankatans like Draupadi Trust, Neera Mishra ji ka Draupadi Trust, they considered Indraprasth as a sacred place. And even David Frawley has tweeted today about that. Indraprasth, the Delhi should be renamed as Indraprasth. So we have a kind of a sacredness associated with our cities, Ayodhya, Kashi, Ahichatra, Kampalya, or even Sringiverapura, where Guha lived. These are all part of the sacred geography, and there are pilgrim circuits which Ram's travel from Ayodhya. They will start, then they will go to Sringiverapura, then Prayaga, where Bharadwaja was there, then Sharbanga Ashrama, Sudhiksha Ashrama. So this this kind of sacred geography can also be taught to the students. So history is a subject, geography is a subject, sacred geography can be either as a subject, a sub-subject of geography, or it can be a topic itself. You can it is also flexible to switch it into cultural studies, or into history, or into geography. So that flexibility is also there. So we have to try these kind of methodologies to inculcate Indic knowledge systems as part of the new education policy. And the last part is about, I have interest. Currently, all my books are in English. And it is focused on a global audience, so I have published it into all over the world. Through Amazon, it goes to USA, Europe, etc. But I want to reach the Hindi audience and all the people who are focused on the regional languages as well. And I look forward for organizations like SMART, who can actually help me publish these books in Hindi, especially into Hindi, and into various regional languages, and help it to reach to the different audience. And for the simplification, actually the best methodology is podcast and sessions like talks like this, because the new generation, they understand more by direct conversation, which I have understood. And if you are targeting the new generation and trying to create an impact on them, then we have to speak more into the podcast sessions and talks like this, discussions like this, and reach it to the various social media platforms like Insta, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But of course, curriculum is a different part. So if there is a kind of possibility of signing up with any educational institutes, any part of these books can be simplified. I mean, because not only the language conversion is one part of it, but putting it in simplified language is another part of it. So we can do both.
So what steps do you think must be taken from a policy perspective to improve and expedite this, adoption of Indian knowledge systems as part of mainstream academic curriculum? ऐसे सरकार को क्या ऐसे कदम उठाने चाहिए ताकि जो बात आप कह रहे हैं वो पाठ्यक्रम का भाग बन जाए और हमारे छात्रों तक वो बात पहुंच सके। इसके लिए आपकी कोई शिक्षा मंत्रालय से कोई बात हुई है, कोई इंफॉर्मेशन ब्रॉडकास्टिंग जो मिनिस्ट्री है उनके साथ आपकी बात हुई है, कुछ इसमें प्रगति हुई है क्या?
डायरेक्टली मैंने इतना ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व नहीं किया, लेकिन मेरा दूसरे कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स है। मैंने जो मेरा पीछे जो दिख रहा है धर्मा डिजिटल प्रोजेक्ट के बेसिस में मैंने मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन से इंटरेक्ट किया है। मेरा एक मैंने एक कंपटीशन में भी पार्टिसिपेट लिया था, एक जिसमें मैंने न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज जो एक्सटेंडेड रियलिटी टेक्नोलॉजी लेके नया न्यू जनरेशन को एजुकेट करने के लिए एक आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का सिस्टम बनाया था, जिसमें पांचाली और गणेशा ये देवी देवतास और हिस्टोरिकल पर्सनालिटीज कैन अपीयर इन फ्रंट ऑफ द पीपल एंड स्पीक anything about our culture and tradition through as a hologram, as a kind of real person in front of them, and they can see these real personalities through mobile phones or other virtual reality devices. So this is I have proposed this as a methodology of education, and the Ministry of Education knows me in this area. I'm yet to connect my books and my main research of the Rgveda, Ramayana and Mahabharata with the ministry, but I would definitely, since I mean you also reminded me about this, I'm actually interested in making more initiatives, more connections in this regard, and this is also one priority for me going forward.
और अंत में मेरा आपसे ये प्रश्न है कि यदि आप आज के कॉर्पोरेट जगत को देखें, यदि वर्किंग क्लास को देखें, तो वहां भी एक वोक कल्चर हावी है। People assume things, and nowadays Hinduism or Hindutva has also become a kind of style statement. But you dig beneath the surface, you don't find much. ये लोग जो हैं, जो लाखों में कमाते हैं, हर महीने लाखों में कमाते हैं, लेकिन सांस्कृतिक तौर पे देखा जाए तो ये खोखले हैं, इनके अंदर कुछ है नहीं, ये डीजे बजाकर पूजा करते हैं। तो ये जो समाज है, यहां तक आप कैसे पहुंचिएगा?
हाँ, वह बहुत सारा जो ये this CSR like corporate social responsibility ऐसे एक बजटरी एलोकेशन है पूरा जो आईटी इंडस्ट्री और पूरा कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में, ये सब पूरा दिखावा होके जा रहा है। मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स इट इज गोइंग इनटू द रॉन्ग टारगेट्स and wasting of money as well. For example, there is a famous, I don't name the company or the founder of the company, but he has donated millions of dollars of money to a Western university for Sanskrit studies, and they were using that money to oppose Sanatana Dharma. So these are the kind of misfires that is keep on happening. But anyway, when I say this, people know who is the person, but I don't want to name. So this is what happens. But I would say that no, those people who are working, they are working without any exposure or for example, I am working for around 25 years. I'm in corporate. After leaving from ISRO, I'm in the corporate for 20 years, and I am working silently with whatever bits and pieces of time I get after my busy corporate life, and I'm putting a lot of effort. Like I established 25,000 pages website, Ancient Voice, this Dharma Digital, for which anyway I have connected with the Ministry of Education, but then 3 books. But this is not noticed by in the corporate world, and whatever corporate does for any kind of cultural CSR, corporate social responsibility, it goes for something very much unrelated things, not going into the actual targets, and not used, the money is not used efficiently. So there are people who are wealthy and rich in the corporate area, but their output or their ability or efficiency is very less. Maybe they are doing something, but they don't know where to put the money, and this going waste.
जी, मुझे लगता है कि अलग अलग मुद्दों पर और अलग अलग सवालों पर जी से बातचीत हुई और अलग तरीके से हमने समझने की कोशिश की, और ये बहुत एक तरीके से कहा जाए कि ये केवल बौद्धिक चर्चा नहीं थी, इसके बीच एग्जाम्पल भी सेट किए गए, उदाहरण भी दिए गए, और एक तरीके से ये भी समझाने की कोशिश की गई कि अगर ये निष्कर्ष है तो इसके पीछे एक ठोस पहलू है, एक ठोस बात है। और देखिए, ये जिस बात का सुजीत जी ने जिक्र किया, जिस यूट्यूबर का जिक्र किया, अलाहाबादिया जो भी है वो, उसकी तरह केवल ये वन वे या फिर मोनोलॉग की तरह ये नहीं था। इसमें सवाल भी पूछे गए और सवाल ऐसे थे जो लॉजिकल थे और वो सही थे। केवल सवाल पूछने के लिए सवाल नहीं पूछे गए, सवाल दरअसल जवाब के प्रति उत्तर में आए थे, और जो जवाब था यानी कि उत्तर था वो भी सवालों के ही हिसाब से था। बहरहाल ये पूरी बातचीत को अब यहाँ हम खत्म करना चाहेंगे, लेकिन दर्शकों से यह अनुरोध है कि इस वीडियो को लाइक, शेयर, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें, और साथ ही साथ आप सवाल कमेंट बॉक्स में जरूर रखें, ताकि जो आप सवाल पूछेंगे उन सवालों के आधार पर जिजित जी को एक बार और बुलाया जाएगा, ताकि फिर वो 1-1.5 घंटा बोले और बार बार पानी पिए, और ये सब तो चलता रहता है। लेकिन जिजित जी सवालों के आधार पर और इस विषय के और अलग अलग पहलुओं को समझने के लिए मैं और सुजीत जी ये आशा करते हैं कि एक बार आप और समय दें, एक बार और इस मुद्दे पर बात करें, या फिर हो सकता है अलग मुद्दों पर भी आपसे बात करें, अलग अलग पहलुओं को समझें। लेकिन आज आपने समय दिया, उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सुजीत सर, आपने भी समय दिया और बेहतर तरीके से, मैं तो पर्दे के पीछे माइनस प्लस हो रहा था, लेकिन आपने लगातार सवाल पूछे और सही तरीके से सवालों को रखा, और मुझे लगता है कि आम आदमी के सवाल, और जो सवाल हमको और आपको आए थे, आपने भी उसे बेहतर तरीके से पूछा। आपके लिए इसके लिए बहुत साधुवाद, और जिजित जी आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद साथ जुड़ने के लिए। साथ यूं ही बने रहें, बहुत जल्दी मिलेंगे किसी और वीडियो में, करेंगे एक और चर्चा। तब तक के लिए नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत, वंदे मातरम।
वंदे मातरम।